Everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and tonight I just got back from watching Dune Part 2. I know, I'm late. I'm really late on this one. But yeah, I gotta say, the only way I can describe this film is a sci-fi epic. Like the word epic in the traditional cinematic sense. You know, back in the day they had like biblical epics. This is like a sci-fi epic in all caps, you know. It is just... Look, I liked part one a lot, but it definitely felt like an unfinished movie, obviously, right? Because it was. And part two, it feels bigger, it feels more explosive, it feels more meaningful, and just all the different things that it covers. I understand now why people were such a big fan of this, you know, the franchise and the book series and just everything in general. Now, to start off, I have never read the books. I did not know what was going to happen going in. You know, I've never even seen the 80s movie, you know, so like I didn't know really anything about Dune except watching the first movie and then like whatever little hints you would pick up from just cultural osmosis, right? And I gotta say, like, I'm just so impressed by this movie. I can see now why way back in the day George Lucas is like, man, I wish I could make a Dune movie. And so, you know, when he went on to do his own thing, he like took so many influences from that story. But yeah, basically, you know, we follow Paul, who's now with the Fremen on Arrakis, and he's trying to learn their ways, and he's trying to become one of them. And this movie really dives deep on stuff that the first one only kind of barely hinted at, about how, like, well, there's this big prophecy, and the Bene Gesserit had like been planting the seeds of this prophecy across the universe. And so even here on Arrakis and the Fremen, you know, for however many thousands of years, they've been praying for this Messiah to show up and be the chosen one and lead them to paradise, you know, bring back water and plant life to Arrakis, you know. And we see this interesting transformation from Paul throughout this entire movie, where like initially he seems to, you know, it seems like he's not trying to fulfill any kind of prophecy. He's not trying to like get people's hopes up, but then he'll have these little moments where he's like, you know, if we can get them on our side, you know, if we got all the Fremen to work together, we could totally take out the Harkonnens, right? You know, and then the next time he'll talk about how the prophecy is a lie and it's not hope, and it's just like this big scam. Basically, they played on all the Fremen people and a bunch of people across the galaxy about like I don't even, is that cataract or whatever? I can't even pronounce what it's called. Someone out there is going to correct me. Anyways, you know, the chosen one. But basically, this entire movie is just about how, you know, you have a group of people who generational faith, you know, like generations upon generations of faith-based things and worship and prayer, and then seemingly you have it coming true, but then it's like, but what if it's all because of this group that's pulling the strings behind the scenes, you know? And now you have Paul, who's like, he's our protagonist, and you see definitely why he wants to, you know, get revenge on the Harkonnens, revenge for his father and his entire family's house. You know, everyone got slaughtered, right? But then you quickly see how like he might not be the good guy. You know, like just because the Harkonnens are also really evil, that doesn't necessarily mean Paul's like a good person, because you quickly see how things start spiraling out of control, because like he's using these people, you know. And you know, of course there's going to be like some kind of internet debate about like you know, how real is the prophecy, right? And I can definitely see how those conversations are going to go about like, well, even if the prophecy was initially a lie that was made up, if someone comes along and they fulfill every step of that prophecy and they start doing like real change planet-wide, universe-wide, then you know, how what difference does it make, you know? Because at that point, the prophecy, he might as well really be a chosen one if he's doing all this, right? So I don't know, you know, very interesting things to think about here, you know, like it was a lie, but also he's kind of doing it, so where's the lie? You know. Anyways, we also see more of like the Harkonnens and their home planet, and then we kind of, they don't really go into it too much because it's kind of a really late in the movie reveal of like, oh, Lady Jessica, right? She is the daughter of the Baron, which means Paul is also part Harkonnen, you know, which, you know, again, a lot of this movie is about like rights to claiming thrones, so like potentially he could, now I guess, you know, especially spoiler alert, everyone, all the Harkonnens, all our main players there are now dead by the end of this movie. He could claim the Harkonnen throne, and then the Emperor finally shows up. It's Christopher Walken, of course, and Paul has to do this role where he's like, okay, I'm going to take the Emperor's daughter as my wife, so I have a claim to the Imperial throne. But also, of course, he's been with Chani this whole time, and they seem to genuinely be in love, right? Like Paul doesn't seem like he's faking that part, you know? But again, that's another thing that I can see people debating, like, did Paul ever actually care about her? Was this all part of, like, you know, getting ingrained in with the Fremen and using these people? You know, or is he actually conflicted? Is he actually like, you know, it kind of seems like it could be both, you know? So it's kind of hard to get a proper read on how Paul is feeling, you know? Like, he's gonna take this other girl as his bride for political reasons, right? Because now he can claim the throne. But of course, she's not happy about that. She runs off into the desert, and I'm sure something's gonna happen there. That's kind of where the movie leaves her. And then we basically just have, like, you know, we have it to where the Emperor has surrendered, and he's gonna marry the daughter, and now all the other royal families, it says they all show up, right? We don't see any of these other royal families, and that's something I'm really curious about. Maybe they'll show up in one of the other movies or shows that they plan on making. I think there's a show coming out somewhere. But yeah, like, who are these other royal families? What are they doing this whole time? I'm sure they're all hearing the same rumors. Like, so I'm curious what's up with those families, because there was this whole kind of side plot of, like, you know, if any of these families found out that the Emperor had the Atreides killed, it would be like this huge political backlash, and they'd all fight the Emperor, right? So, like, even the Emperor's throne is not, like, untouchable, right? Like if all the families could get together and decide, like, you know what, screw this guy, and take him out, right? So basically we leave off in this place where, you know, all the Harkonnens are gone. Paul is now, you know, he's now has thousands of fully faithful followers who are willing to die for the cause of their chosen one, and he's gonna go fight all of the other families, I guess. So now, and this is kind of where you get to the point where, like, maybe Paul really was just in it for power now. Like, it's not even just about revenge anymore. Now it seems more about power, because he's gonna go after these other royal families. They all get in spaceships and leave. But it's like, you know, what does this have to do with what happened to your house? You know, like, you claimed the throne and all that, and if they say, we don't count this, it's like, okay, just stay on Arrakis, right? Like, because you have the spice, you control the spice, so, like, what are these other families gonna do? Why, you know, I'm very curious as to, I mean, at least it seemed like they're gonna go attack the other families, right? Because he said he's off to war, he's leaving, and they showed them all get in ships and stuff and leave. So I'm assuming that they left Arrakis. It kind of seemed that way, at least. But yeah, very, very interested in to see what's going to happen after this. I don't know if they've, like, officially confirmed there's actually going to be another movie. I think there's been, like, hints of it. You know, I think the directors come out and said, like, oh, I'm already writing, even though I don't think anything is greenlit. But seeing as how well the movie is is actually performing so far. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of follow-up to this, whether it's called Part 3 or if it's called, I think Dune Messiah is like the book name, so I'm sure they'll call it something like that, or / Part 3. But in any case, yeah, just a lot of interesting stuff goes on here. I will say it is a long movie, like it is an epic, like I said, so it's got some length to it, and there's, you might find yourself like, okay, this movie just keeps going on. You might, I don't know, in the age of streaming, you might be like wishing that you could pause the movie for a second to like get up and stretch for a second, because like a lot of stuff is happening, a lot of different plot points are introduced, characters that we're meeting for the first time, but just, yeah, also like I haven't even talked about what's his name, Fade Rafa, like his main rival of this movie. We're introduced to this guy for the first time, and he's like he's like the anti-Paul, or just an alternate version of Paul, where like the Bene Gesserit had also spent generations engineering, these people have kids, now these people have kids, now these people have kids, until we get to this guy, right? And they've been doing that for several bloodlines, and basically it's like, okay, if this Paul guy is not working out, we can use this other guy, right? And they even like have one of their members go get impregnated by this guy just so they can keep the bloodline going, right? It really shows like how manipulative the Bene Gesserit are. Like they're just the ultimate people pulling the strings. Which, by the way, I will say this: how is it that no one realizes what's happening here? How is it that like the Emperor is cool with like the leader of this group just hanging out with him all the time? Like do you not see how they're pulling everyone's strings here? Like why do you let them in the room? like if I was the leader of one of these houses, I'd be like, we're not gonna ever listen to or talk to any of these Bene Gesserit people, because they're clearly up to something. They clearly have their own agenda. I don't understand why we listen to them at all, right? Like it's kind of interesting. I'm wondering what the actual reason for that is. Like I understand they have like powers and stuff, and maybe all these royal houses just feel like they gotta have at least one member of the group there, but like I don't know. If I was a royal leader, I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna let the weird witch ladies in the house, because they're definitely they're shady. They're clearly like all in cahoots, and they're all manipulating all the families for some reason, so anyways, I just thought that was also pretty interesting. But yeah, just, man, this movie was great. It's got me definitely like, I'm now fully invested in this franchise. I don't know if I'm gonna like start buying all the books. I need like someone to tell me, like, are the books like readable, or are they kind of like, would it be better to maybe, I don't know, wait for the movie to see what happens next? But either way, yeah, this was really, really impressive. This is definitely gonna like be a lot of people's movie of the year, like just visually and storytelling and action, and just all the different themes that it covers. Like this is I don't know, like I think back and I'm like, man, I kind of wish, I think back of things like like Anakin Skywalker and the Chosen One prophecy, and they, obviously George Lucas was like, kind of mirroring some things that happened in Dune, but in the Star Wars universe, it was all legitimate. There was a prophecy, and it really was that he was destined to do this, and it was never like questioned too much, like they never fully like, hey, but what if it was all bullshit, right? So now I'm just I don't know, there's definitely things I see this and I'm like, Star Wars could do something like this, they could definitely come up with a new Chosen One, and then you start questioning that prophecy, right? Like I don't know. Either way, really, really cool movie. I'm gonna do some research on this universe, on this world, and I feel like I don't know how much of a fandom there really is other than these two movies. It's not like it's not like there's 10 million TV shows in an ongoing comic book series or anything like that, right? Like it feels like I'm gonna have to kind of dig for merchandise, you know, or dig for other materials to kind of get into other than just the books and these movies. But you know what? Hey, maybe I'll go finally watch that 80s movie. I'm sure someone has it. I'm gonna check that thing out. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about Dune 2 and its relationship to, you know, Star Wars and all that, and obviously like all the themes that happen here. I'm sure, you know, in today's political climate, I'm sure that some people are gonna come out and be like, Dune 2 is saying this about religion, right? You know, I'm sure someone somewhere is already like writing those headlines. But anyways, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.